Greetings from Costa Rica, and thank you very much for joining us for tonight's Wednesday night live chat. Once again, I have friends here. Paul and Vicki have spent 8 months in Costa Rica.
Yep.
Yes.
They were previously nice enough to come on to my channel, I think about 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
We sat out on the beach. We talked a little bit about their journey. They gave me an interview about where they've been throughout Guanacaste. Tonight they have an absolutely enormous decision to share about Costa Rica, and we're doing it on live here on Costa Rica Matt. The suspense is literally killing us. We're trying out a new couch tonight here for our Costa Rica chats, and we'll look forward to using that as much as possible. And our main topic of discussion after we have our interview with Paul and Vicki is going to be security here in Costa Rica. We're going to go over how you can find a safe location for your property. We'll talk about some basic tips about keeping that property safe. I'll give my own best security recommendations, all 100% in the spirit of helping and empowering people. Word of warning, if we see anybody just raving in the chat as to how dangerous this is or saying those sorts of things, you will be removed, because the purpose, again, is to be positive tonight. Thanks very much for joining us for our Costa Rica chat. Stay tuned. Paul and Vicki join me live tonight in the Latitude at 10 office. Cheers, and thank you very much for coming along.
Thank you.
Tell us about a brief overview of your time here in Costa Rica. What have you been up to?
Surfing. I don't surf, but Paul has been surfing. Playing pickleball.
Yep. Why did you come down?
We came down for the weather.
Yeah.
What was it? You were on an exploratory trip, if
Yes.
I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Where have you been on this trip so far?
We've been up and down pretty much the whole length of Guanacaste, and we've been to Dominical, Uvita, that area as well.
Okay.
And we know we want to be on the Pacific, or we wanted to be on the Pacific coast.
Yep.
Sure. I mean, that was like a huge thing. I mean,
Yep.
My wife indulges me.
For your surfing.
Yeah.
So,
what are some things you have loved about Costa Rica over the last 7 or 8 months?
the water is so warm. The ocean, it's like fantastic. Forget your wetsuit.
Yeah, absolutely. Vicki?
There is a quality of life here that's very relaxed and laid back, and you can bring your dog everywhere.
Absolutely.
The Ticos really are as nice as people say.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And they're helpful and friendly.
So super helpful.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Good vibes. You don't feel aggression or insecure anywhere. It's just really nice. Really
yeah,
friendly.
absolutely.
Very welcomed as foreigners.
Yeah.
So that's been wonderful.
Great. I'm glad to hear that. And consistently, I do get that feedback that the Tico culture and the friendliness is one of the top reasons people consider moving here.
Yes.
Now, what are some of the things that have been drawbacks that you didn't necessarily fall in love with?
I have come to realize, give me that. I've come to realize that while I enjoy some aspects of nature, I don't like other aspects of nature. And
yes. Could you be, I've been following your Facebook feed while you're in town.
Yes.
Could it perhaps be a couple of reptiles and other insects that made it into your life unexpectedly?
Absolutely. And, I mean, you have to appreciate where you are, right? So there's the aspect of, you know, pura vida and being one with nature, and there is a lot of that here.
Yeah, absolutely. You live with the critters
Yes.
here in Guanacaste.
Beautiful and ugly.
Yes, all of them. You get amazing birds, but you also get mosquito bats and other kinds of wildlife that people might
Yes.
not want to really interact with.
Yes.
So tell us, what is your major decision about Costa Rica? Have you found the perfect property for you to live out your retirement?
No.
We decided that we're not going to buy a place here yet.
Yep.
Maybe sometime in the future we'll be back and we'll have explored, but we've decided we want to go and explore some more.
Yeah,
Some more
absolutely.
destinations. We're not as ready as we thought we were to pick a single place.
Yeah.
So we're gonna pack up and head out in a couple of months and see where's next.
And how difficult will it be for you to pack up and head out, having rented for the last 8 months?
Sell the car and pack the bags.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I wanted to bring them on specifically to celebrate the fact that the right process has happened here.
Yeah.
You didn't decide to invest huge amounts of your retirement savings into a property before you had spent a lot of time here. You rented, you tested that pura vida lifestyle, and guess what, folks? It is not for everybody out there. And if you're just so anxious to buy in Costa Rica that you can't do it without living here first, really you might need to think about people like Paul and Vicki, who have now spent a great deal of time here and it's just not feeling like home. So congratulations on making an amazing decision.
Yeah.
And you get to continue on and cut your ties to Costa Rica with just the sale of a car. So that's really awesome news. Before we go, I wanted to ask you, do you regret coming to Costa Rica and spending this time here?
Not at all.
Not at all.
No, it's been a great experience. I would be shocked if we don't come back
Uh-huh.
visit in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've met lots of great people. We've seen lots of great things. We've done lots of things. That there's lots that we like about it. We're just not ready to,
Yeah.
buy a place. So
Absolutely. No, this is that's great news that you'll be back and that you did enjoy yourselves here. Given that tonight's live chat is about security, I also wanted to surprise you and sort of ask, have you felt unsafe here? How do you feel about the general security situation in different parts of the country?
Here, I've never felt unsafe. And
Uh-huh.
that goes for pretty much everywhere we've stayed here.
Yep.
In Junquial, we're in Tierra Pacifica, we're in the gated community. That gives a sense of security.
Yeah, absolutely.
You hear things.
Yep. And that's exactly what we want to talk about tonight during our discussion on security. You've felt safe because you've had a great location here, but definitely there are all kinds of horror stories and things that need to be addressed.
Yes.
So we will get to our discussion on security next. To provide a nice awkward segue so that I can go sit in the other chair, rotate the camera, etc., and also let Paul and Vicki head out, I'm going to have Danielle, my assistant, play a video of a property we have listed actually in Tierra Pacifica, perfect timing, a new 3-bedroom home measuring 1,800 square feet. Do you guys like the pool at Tierra Pacifica?
the facilities in Tierra Pacifica are fantastic. I mean, there's never anyone there. It's brilliant.
Perfect segue into selling a little bit of real estate here. Thank you very much for joining me again. Appreciate it a bunch. Danielle, let's watch that video. Have a good evening, Paul and Vicki. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're my lucky strike. Love the way you ride.
from Costa Rica. I'm excited to announce a new listing in one of Guanacaste's best gated communities. We're here in Tierra Pacifica, a spectacular 75-lot community where one of Guanacaste's best ecological designs has been carried out to create a really peaceful, tranquil community. This home is a 3-bedroom home measuring 1,800 square feet. It's on lot number 65 in Tierra Pacifica, and as of March 2022, it has an asking price of $495,000. As you can see, this encompasses the best that Guanacaste has to offer. Beautiful teak hardwood ceilings. We've got an absolutely gorgeous design that allows for airflow through the home and a ton of light to come in to enjoy your surroundings. Outside, they have lush, beautiful gardens. And the best part is, it was only built about 1.5 years ago. Its owners are just not able to move to Costa Rica as they planned, and so they've decided to sell this beautiful home in pretty much new condition, having only been rented and taken care of once by its current caretakers. Let's check out the master bedroom. As you can see, they've beautifully incorporated local hardwood furniture throughout the home. You have enormous space available with a king bed here and really a master suite that is spacious with a bathroom here. The design beautifully incorporates a patio into the space on this side over here. And on this end of the home, you have the 2 guest bedrooms sharing a bath between them. The kitchen was built to accommodate somebody who loves to cook. You've got enormous amounts of counter space here. Wonderful breakfast bar, also built out of local hardwoods. Tierra Pacifica is known in this area for being one of few very successful communities. You have 24/7 security with a guard patrolling at night on a motorcycle in addition to a guard at the gate. You have a beautiful multi-tiered pool with a tennis court, gym, and yoga salon. There are miles of hiking trails throughout the community, and perhaps best of all, this home on lot number 65 is closest to Tierra Pacifica's beach access trail. From here, it's exactly 950 meters to the sand at Playa Junquillal, our absolutely idyllic beach that is still quiet and really an underdeveloped community here in Guanacaste. For more information, please be sure to send me an email to matt@lat10realty.com. Thanks very much for watching. Here in Costa Rica. And first, I want to start by talking about where it is safe within the country. And one thing that's important to understand immediately that we can sort of get out of the way is that if you've heard about some of the worst crime in the country and the sort of the more extreme things happening, those are typically happening in one of a few areas that are easy to pinpoint from the start. Costa Rica's urban Central Valley, the San Jose area and the cities there are definitely one of the places where the security situation is most questionable because, yes, when you get this many people living in a small area, obviously there are good neighborhoods, there are bad neighborhoods, there's a lot of people struggling to make a living. And you see that in this Central Valley area, yes, that would be one of the few hotspots in Costa Rica that for expats and foreigners, you really have to sort of consider your security situation a lot. Another area would be one port on either side of the country. You've got Limon on the Caribbean that is an urban area and afflicted by a lot of those same problems. And down here on the Pacific coast, we also have Punta Arenas, a port that definitely suffers from the typical issues that come with a lot of laborers, low-paid people, and an urban area without enough employment. And you see that Punta Arenas definitely is a city in Costa Rica that, first of all, not many foreigners would decide to invest in the first place. But again, if you're just looking at the country overall, these three locations, the major cities, are definitely sort of exceptions to what I want to talk about tonight. And specifically, I want to focus on the situation that I know best and the area of the country where I have most experience here in Guanacaste, where most expats are considering moving. You would see that Guanacaste is defined by very small communities. And out here on the coast, just like the broader trend, yes, the tourism hubs, the bigger areas with a lot more wealth and a lot more traffic of people coming and going, are definitely more prone to have security issues than the small rural communities in between them. You would see that there are greater threats to, your home getting invaded, or let's just say stuff getting taken out of it in places that have those dense development. And really, it's simply because more than anything here in Costa Rica, you see crime of opportunity out here in Guanacaste. And that crime of opportunity obviously centers around the places that there's the most opportunity. But so, while there might be crime or more crime in general in a place like Tamarindo than there is in a much quieter community or a fully gated enclave, even within a community like Tamarindo, there is a lot of nuance to where you might have more security issues than others. So you can't just really apply any kind of blanket statement as to the fact that, yeah, Tamarindo is dangerous because it's a super tourism hub, or Potrero, lo que sea. The point I want to make is that within a community like Tamarindo, one of the biggest defining factors, and really anywhere in Costa Rica, that's going to determine your security situation is really the amount of daily traffic and the number of people who are going by your property, and the combination of security measures you have to deter anyone who might be thinking of, sneaking in and taking something. So in a community like Tamarindo, yes, if you have a home with public road frontage on one of the most trafficked areas of town, if you see the greatest number of people coming past your property every day, and if you have very much an open sort of design that allows a lot of those people to see what's in your home, then we're talking about a very different situation than communities still within Tamarindo, just 2 blocks away, where you have a gated private community and a home at the end of the block is going to be just about as untrafficked or really not seen as a property that's located far out in the woods. And it's important to mention that even in Tamarindo, 1 kilometer from the beach, you can already be out in a much more rural area where the amount of people passing by your property would be significantly less than living right downtown. So in choosing your location and trying to figure out where is safe in Costa Rica, really you have to be able to understand the nuances of a neighborhood and how you're going to be safe in that context and keep your property secure. To emphasize one thing here, yes, I recognize that there are really bad stories that happen. There are break-ins that go wrong that end occasionally in tragedy. There are serious crimes happening. But by and large, in Costa Rica and specifically Guanacaste, what you see are the crimes of opportunity where people who have very little income take something valuable that's easy to steal. So you would see in Tamarindo or even in the luxury gated communities, really that the problems are gadgets disappearing, cash, that's been taken, etc. Really, you see sneak-ins, people coming into properties that are uncared for or completely vulnerable and swiping something that's easy to take, something that's very vulnerable and that has a huge, that represents a big opportunity for the person taking it. Let's go back and talk about a big question there on gated communities. Do you need to live in a gated community in Costa Rica to be safe? Absolutely not. My wife and I have lived for 11 years in our home that is not really a gated community. We know lots and lots of people in our area that have lived years and years with no problems, nobody taking those valuables, etc., and they're not in a gated community. One of the big benefits that a gated community provides is that in Costa Rica, that private road access, the level of, the fewer number of people that will be able to see your property or pass by it is already greatly reduced. And yes, that's a huge step towards your security being 100% guaranteed. But you do see the same sorts of crimes of opportunity in gated communities. You see them happen in non-gated communities. And very frequently, there are a range of other factors at play besides just whether or not it's in a gated community. So yes, it's a huge step towards being safe here, but at the same time, you can find a property that gives you almost the 100% same level of privacy and, really that lack of passersby that a gated community does. For example, if you purchase in a rural area where you live up a steep road that's unappetizing to people just to go walking around, that's also a huge step in a direction for your security. If you live in a little nook where no one can really see your home, that's another absolutely huge step that you don't necessarily need to be in a gated community to have. So I know that in a lot of Central American countries, in other places in the world, foreigners moving here absolutely have to focus on, yes, I need to find a gated community. But what I want to encourage you to think about is that in Costa Rica, that's not necessarily how you guarantee your security. And we're going to talk about a range of other issues that help you feel very secure. And Steve, thank you very much for your comment. I think that the majority of people who visit end up leaving and with that absolute sense that they were secure the entire time they were here. But again, there are those bad stories that we hear about. So let's go back and sort of talk about how you can guarantee your security in general. And in thinking about the panorama of options available to you as a property owner, really what you have to think about is the rational cost-benefit analysis that thieves are doing when they're trying to make their living. And, I'm very much against passing moral judgment. And what I think that I look at crime here as a result of is, in many situations, the benefit of stealing something, sneaking into somebody's house at night and stealing their cash or computer far outweighs the potential costs. In other words, if you offer low-hanging fruit that is going to be a huge meal and an important piece of income to somebody in a local community, then yes, you might be the victim of that person deciding to take your personal goods. And if you consider both sides of that cost-benefit analysis, you don't necessarily have to live behind a walled compound with razor wire and cameras and dogs and all kinds of security measures. You can simply make your cost-benefit analysis so unappealing to a potential thief that you don't have to worry. Specifically, if you avoid having very flashy, easy to transport, expensive goods at your home that people can see, whether they're just passing through as contractors or maybe they're working at somebody else's house in the neighborhood, you've already done a huge step towards reducing that potential benefit to a thief. If they see that $3,000 laptop lying on a table that's just behind a door with a simple lock, then yeah, they're obviously going to see that potential opportunity. If you live humbly here, and really if you focus on presenting that opportunity, that potential huge benefit, you've already avoided a lot of potential crime. At my house, we're proud to own a ridiculously basic 32-inch television that I think we spent $80 or $90 on. And one of the things that we've taken as a security measure is that anything that we have that's more valuable than that TV gets locked in a reinforced door room while we're not at the property for a while. So really, the opportunity at our house, somebody could possibly come through and take our blender, that junky TV, some of our basic, appliances, etc. But really, to them, they'd be much more interested in going out to the beach and finding a tourist who might have a ton of cash in their suitcase. One of the worst examples of a recent crime involved people making off with $7,000 in cash from a private property. And that $7,000, obviously, even in a situation where people had a lot of security measures, that opportunity was too big for potential thieves. And generally speaking, when you see crime happening here in Guanacaste, it's that balance becoming favorable for a thief to decide to take something from you. On the other side of that equation, the cost-benefit analysis, you can definitely raise the potential costs for anybody who wants to sneak in. One of the easiest solutions are well-trained dogs or semi-well-trained dogs. If you're living here permanently, or if you have somebody on your property permanently, yes, dogs have flaws, and they're not always going to be that 100% protection, but a dog raises the potential cost for all kinds of situations where somebody might sneak by and decide to take something from your property. For example, we used to have a neighbor who was helping himself to our eggs from a chicken coop, and putting our dog outside 24/7 really helped resolve that situation. And we never had any issues with him coming by after we had a dog on a perimeter fence that probably represented a huge risk to this particular neighbor. Really, so you thinking holistically and making it so that you're not presenting a huge potential benefit to somebody is one of the steps, and at the same time, you have to make it difficult for them to achieve that benefit. Let's move on and talk about really my best security tips and how I think that you can guarantee your security and safety, or at least take the best precautions available. Again, there are people who have followed everything I'm about to say and ended up with these situations. And It is inevitable here in a country with such a disparity between the people who have a lot and the people who don't have quite as much. But here's what I would give as my top advice for ensuring your security. First and foremost, yes, you do need to focus on choosing a location where you are prepared to take the adequate security measures to manage your property. If you don't want to live behind high walls with lots of cameras, razor wire, dogs, on and on, then you probably shouldn't be looking for a property in the middle of a tourism hub, a bar district, where you're going to have people wandering by at every minute of the day, and a lot of people who are, desperate or looking for those opportunities. Find a location where you can set up your property in some way that really gives you good privacy. You can even be on a public beach in Costa Rica and pick a property where you're not that exposed to everybody out on the water. Or if you're going to pick one of those properties that's very exposed and very public, you just need to be prepared that you're going to have to take extra measures on the back end. And for example, if you're buying a very popular rental property in a highly trafficked area, you're going to have to consider a lot more security measures, maybe even paying a guard at night if it's a big property, whatever it takes to counteract that combination of your exposure and the fact that you're going to have tourists there. At the same time, if you're going to choose a property in a very remote rural location, then honestly, you've got a huge amount of privacy and protection from any kind of this crime of opportunity. You might just need to take the simple step of not storing huge amounts of cash on the premises, or having amazing cars or such a huge amount of wealth that it might be interesting for somebody to come up and try and take it all. One of the simplest paradigms that you have to be thinking about here is not leaving your valuables vulnerable. And that is simply the main reason that people put a lot of bars on their windows. You could live happily without bars on your windows in even an area that's not gated and not have a problem for years and years and years. But bars on windows and other ways that you secure your property that just physically make it harder for somebody to get your valuables are another huge step in the right direction. Do you always need bars on a property? Absolutely not. But if you have computers, TVs, cell phones, etc., that might be completely open to a passing by stranger at certain times of the day, bars could be a very efficient way to make it so that passerby says, well, I'm not just going to take 5 minutes and try and rip that bar off the window. They're going to go and look for that lower hanging fruit and something that's just slightly more complicated than what you've got going on at your property. Like I mentioned, one of the simplest solutions that we found at my house, knock on wood, we haven't had our valuables taken to date. But when we're going to leave for a little while, even though our house is very sort of open and exposed, we put our very valuable stuff in an extremely strong room. We actually converted the bathroom in our master bedroom into a room that's got a really good steel-enforced window and a great security door on it that we feel would take, way too much effort for someone to break into. When on those random occasions we're at the beach for the afternoon, etc., when we also have our dog barking, our neighbors nearby, and a variety of other security measures in place. To me, that can be one of the most common sense things people could do here. You don't necessarily have to secure every single entrance to your property, and that can be impossible. Really, you can just take your very valuable stuff and put it in an extremely secure location. And in doing so, even if someone comes through, like I said, they've been looking for those big opportunities, and they're not going to see that you've got extremely vulnerable gadgets in those easy to reach situations. Another thing that we highly recommend and have done to our vehicles here in Costa Rica is adding kill switches. You do hear about vehicles being stolen because, yes, those are big opportunities for people who might only make, $5,000 in a year. The chance to take a car is a pretty ripe opportunity, especially in this economy where cars are so expensive. You'll see older cars that many foreigners purchase in Costa Rica can be push started very easily because they're manual transmission. And yeah, if you've got your car parked in a vulnerable place overnight, it can be a target. Kill switches are a simple addition to the formula that can help you secure your vehicles. We had our mechanic put them on ours so that, yeah, overnight we can simply flip off the kill switch hidden in a secret location. And it's one more thing that would make it difficult for somebody to take our cars, especially while we have a dog barking its head off, especially when we've got an open enough home that we can hear what's going on 8 feet away from us in our driveway. And I keep rattling on about the various measures because I do want to emphasize that all of these different measures and strategies really to be most secure and to keep your stuff safe, you have to use a combination of various things, and no one solution is ever going to really be your 100% catch-all for security. Instead, it's using common sense and applying various things to, like I'm saying, make this the opportunity cost calculation bad. The cost benefit analysis bad for potential thieves. Obviously, I've mentioned we have a dog. They're amazing animals and actually co-evolved with humans because they provided great security. They're nature's alarm system, and among other security measures here, if you've got a home and you're there enough to take care of animals, fencing in the property and having a dog loose at night can give you, peace of mind. You can sleep with your windows open with a well-trained dog nearby. Here, one of the biggest solutions for simple crime issues can be motion sensors attached to alarms. Really, the vast majority of these sneak-in incidents are people coming into properties trying to be 100% unnoticed, and they're really focused on having the easiest in and out experience in taking your gadget or cash. So all kinds of motion sensors that set off an audible alarm or turn on floodlights or bring attention to the situation can be a huge step in the right direction. And, it might not even be that time that someone is actually coming to steal something that the motion sensor comes in handy. You want it there the day that they're sneaking by and sort of looking at what's going on so that they see, oh, this person has X, Y, and Z different mechanisms to set off an alarm at night. This looks unappealing, and even buying this sort of equipment, putting it on the outside of your house, having it visible at different points in the property, clearly putting up cameras, etc., is already a step in the right direction. This may seem like a no-brainer, but very much avoid having large quantities of cash at your property. Some people think that they need to come down to Costa Rica with a lot of money because they don't expect to see credit cards available. Really, we're seeing greater and greater and greater adoption of credit card services everywhere. You will probably only need cash at 5 to 10% of the businesses in Guanacaste. And so you should definitely focus on limiting the amount that you have at any one time. And second of all, once you've purchased a property and you're not just visiting anymore, definitely never make the mistake of having the payroll for all of your personnel, for example. We had a good chunk of change taken from the foreman on our construction job site. While we were building our home, we were literally, this was a long time ago, and I'm clearly demonstrating how I didn't follow this advice. We were literally taking out money from an ATM to pay weekly payroll, giving it to the contractor who's every Friday paying the guys from the work crew. Well, every Friday, they get off the job site, they come over to his house, they hear him walking upstairs, and opening up the secret location where the cash is. The same happens with rental properties where managers take payment in cash, or foreigners really who expect to need that big chunk of change to pay something in cash. Try and get it out of your hands as soon as possible. If you've rented your home on Airbnb and you've got that money, get it to the bank quickly. Never let others see, sort of what's going on and, that huge chunk of change. Because, in that circumstance where our contractor was robbed, for example, we even have a pretty good clue as to one of several people that this could have been, because yes, the workers on the site knew where the cash was, and this crime indicated they had just snuck straight to the location and taken it. And we really can't even blame that person. They could have been in a dire situation later that week. You meet a lot of people who drink their entire paycheck and then get ravenously desperate for a way to keep drinking. Well, all of a sudden they're thinking about where have they seen that cash or what kind of opportunity is out there. And you might turn an otherwise, relatively respectable person into an opportunist who decides, I remember where that cash is and I'm just going to go get some because they don't even pay me well enough on that site anyhow. So never ever have a huge chunk of cash, and certainly if you do, keep it a good secret. Don't be flashing it around. Finally, one of my biggest Costa Rica security tips, and one that's walking a fine line, is that you do have to be careful with your relationships here. And specifically, you have to be careful with who you're having through your home. I don't mean to say that you should be on your guard with your elbows out and defensive and really focused on, nobody can see my property, stay off, stay outside the fence. You should be focused on building wonderful relationships with Costa Ricans here. You should be generous to Costa Ricans and Nicaraguans here in Guanacaste. You should absolutely want to share your life with people here in the area. But don't start doing this gung-ho very early into your time here and indiscriminately with a wide range of people. You may feel that you absolutely have a great relationship with someone, but just like Paul and Vicki got done saying, Costa Ricans are extremely friendly. You're going to meet a lot of people here who are absolutely, giving you the vibe that you're great friends and that they can be trusted. Many and, everybody can be trusted. You don't have to feel scared in Costa Rica. But you shouldn't invite 20 unknown people over to your home Not even just because those 20 unknown people might, be a risk to you directly. Their cousins, their uncles, people in their network. You never know who you are exposing to what you have. And I would highly suggest taking your time here in Costa Rica when you've built your property, at the beginning, when you're figuring out where you fit in the local culture and you're figuring out who's who. Give it a good rest and wait on the number of people and the variety that you invite to come into your property. Because like I've been discussing with the type of crime that we see, it's the vast majority is opportunistic. And that opportunity starts when someone comes through and sees a very valuable thing on your kitchen countertop. And really, that opportunity also advances as they get a better understanding of your lifestyle, when you come and go, on and on. We have abejones de mayo circulating here in the office. So to wrap up here, when you're considering moving to Costa Rica, first of all, yes, it is safe here, and there are communities where you have more risks than others, but security in Costa Rica is really a matter of first understanding the context, understanding the types of threats that you're facing, and taking the appropriate steps to really address those. You shouldn't be completely naive to think that because Costa Rica is the happiest country in the world, and because they have such a high standard of living for so many of its citizens, that there aren't these types of potential crime. You shouldn't assume that because you've got such a cute rural beach spot that nothing ever bad could happen there because it's so charming and small. You really need to understand what's going on and take the appropriate steps. 9 times out of 10, the appropriate steps are keeping your privacy up, making sure that whatever you have isn't clearly visible to the people who might be interested in taking it. And a lot of times it's not being the lowest hanging fruit for the collection of riffraff that is executing these sorts of crimes throughout the country. If you're considering moving to Costa Rica and you want more helpful information, be sure to join me live every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Costa Rica time. We'll be here on my channel with a broadcast every week. Next week is going to be a very fun one. It's called Internet versus Reality. We'll be looking at how things are portrayed by Costa Rica realtors on the internet and how they really play out on the ground. So that'll be a fun examination. If you haven't already done so, please, oh please, hit that subscribe button on my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks again for joining me tonight, and we'll see you again next Wednesday. Have a good night.